Hi, friends. Today's episode begins with a little bit of magic. Just 3 days before leading a retreat, my yoga and sound bath guide had to cancel, and I was scrambling to fill the gap. After leaving a message and gearing up to make another call, my phone rang. It was Jake. In that instant, we connected effortlessly, arranging the yoga and sound bath for the retreat. And before we knew it, we're planning to co-present at the upcoming Smoky Mountain Yoga and Wellness Festival. It's moments like these that remind us how the universe conspires to bring people and opportunities together in the most unexpected ways. Today, Jake and I dive into how these chance connections spark real growth, why slowing down can seed transformation, and how asking, what if, plus leaning into community can open doors you never imagined. Settle in and let's explore the power of passion, curiosity, and collaboration. Welcome, Jake, and thank you for saying yes to being a guest.
Are you kidding me? I'm beside myself. I'm so excited. I'm soaked.
Well, I wanted to share with the audience that we met quite by chance recently when I had a last-minute cancellation for a yoga and sound bath guide for the retreat I was leading. I had 3 days to find someone who could step in and provide what was promised. And after leaving a message and getting ready to make my next call, you were calling me. We connected immediately, and you said yes to helping me out, which I will forever be grateful for. And I love how the universe conspires to put things together for outcomes and experiences we never could have imagined or made happen on our own.
I agree. 100%. 100%. Absolutely.
And I was just thinking, now we're talking about doing things together in the future, which it wouldn't have happened had that episode of panic and last minute trying to figure things out had occurred. So it seemed disastrous, but it ended up being something I'm so grateful to have experienced, and getting to meet you is 100% worth it.
Oh man, my God, that's so kind. And it's the feeling's mutual, really is, Christy. If there's one thing I'm about to turn 44, and one of the things I've definitely been learning is like whenever I start all the proverbial doors that are locked, I used to try and kick them open because it's like what I would want or what I felt like or thought I wanted. And now when I meet any type of resistance, I chill out. And I just try to let things just happen as organically as they can. And I mean, that saying of vibe and tribe, I mean, it's crazy because you're in Florida and I'm all the way up here in North Carolinas. And it's quite beautiful how, like, I think the word that you use is how universal it is, that I don't know if there's anything that's actually conspiring for us on the out periphery, but I do know that when you really start to be brave enough to ask yourself what you really, really want and go after that, like things just start to happen.
I love that phrase that you use, vibe and tribe. What do you when you say that? What do you mean?
I wish I could say that I coined the phrase, but it's not for me. And I don't know who I'm quoting on that, but vibe and tribe is like, just the vibe, the feel. I mean, from the get go, as soon as we got on the phone, you were easy to talk to. And because there are some people that you can sit down and talk with and you got to go through some layers,
right?
And figure out what they really, really want. But it just felt like, the only way I can describe it when you got a vibe going on, it's like in 3 ways. First way is like when you watch a group of birds flying in the sky and they're all conspiring together.
Yep.
The fish in the sea and how they're all one big thing, but they're apart. And then when musicians sit down and they can jam, and it could be one of the first times that they've ever met one another, and yet they can put out a song. It's just that feeling. That's that vibe. And so to be able to talk so freely the way that I've been able to talk with you, I mean, all the other people that I've kind of sent your way, that's what they've gotten. They come back to, you're right. She's so easy to talk to.
Well,
you
that means
know?
to me. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
And I would say the same thing. And I guess this is a mutual admiration society,
Mhm.
but you're right. There are certain people that you just connect with, and it's been easy and non-ego. And I've really been grateful that we did meet and that we have been able to work together. And who knows what the future will bring.
Yeah, I'm totally just stoked about it. I mean, between June 21st that we got coming up with the Smoky Mountain Yoga Festival, that and just some of the other things that we just been talking about. I mean, with your retreats and be able to help each other in that way, and uh, I'm quite speechless about it. I'm really,
Well,
really
we're going to
stoked.
get to the Yoga Fest in just a little bit, but I'm going to back up a little bit because I want to learn about you. So when you and I talked, like we said, we've been saying, we just connected. And I was really curious about how you got to yoga. What first drew you to yoga, and how did that spark evolve into the founding of Access Yoga, your yoga studio in Western North Carolina?
That's a really good question, Christy. Well, it's definitely not been linear. It's not been uh, a clear target. It's been quite meandering.
Tell
Like,
me about that.
all right, with you want me to talk about me? I'd love to.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I want to
um,
hear about that journey because, like you said, I know it wasn't linear. I know you didn't start out to be a yoga instructor. So, how did you evolve? Where did you start professionally? And how did you get to owning this beautiful yoga studio and being so involved in your community?
Originally from Nixa, Missouri. It's a little small town, probably about the size of Waynesville. If, It's probably bigger than Waynesville now, but it's pretty religious place to grow up. And so I was always in church. My dad led a lot of worship services, and just seeing people being affected by the positivity of other, people via church, and being of service to one another um, has always been very important to me because that's my upbringing. If someone needs something, you give them what they need, or you try to meet them somewhere in the middle. And so in the midst of all that, grow up, listen to music, yada yada. Eventually, I was like, I don't know what I want to do. I don't know how I want to help people. And I went to a local uh, movie theater, and they were showing this movie called Murder Ball, and it was made by the guys produced by Jackass. And the story, it's a great documentary. It's about these young men who, and all forms of their life, were either born with it or had something happen to them to where they become paraplegics. And so they have this sport where they get in these like kind of battle, like Mad Max type of wheelchairs, and they play murder ball together. And so they find their masculinity, and they find their identity again, and that's always been something really near dear to my heart. I feel like there are a lot of we're all hurting and we're all suffering in some way, and we're all carrying these wounds around. Either we're very aware of our wounds, and we were talking about grief earlier. Sometimes we don't even know the grief that we're carrying around. And so from that movie, watching men find themselves after because I mean, everything about masculinity is kind of, unfortunately, about this idea of how dominant can you be, uh,
Mhm.
your voice, how you can tower over others. And these are people who can't necessarily do that anymore, and watching them find their personalities again and find stasis. And so that put me on the road of like, I think I want to become a physical therapist. And so as I start going to college for that, I'm realizing, boy, there's not much beauty here in it. There's a lot of people who are being made to go to physical therapy, and they don't want. And so that made me change my mind really quick. And so I decided I wanted to be a writer, and so I started. I got my degree in writing, um, and and studying in men's studies, and I did a lot of. The author's name is totally just escaping me right now, but it's a gentleman who, during the feminist movement, he was also doing the masculinity movement, and he was like one of the guys that he's the reason why we have drum circles in America,
Oh,
and he also did he studied all the different fairy tales and folklore and saw all the archetypal patterns, in all aspects, from the Nordic to Irish, and which are somewhat in the same. And so I did all that type of studying, and then all the while getting that minor in psychology, and seeing how how archetypes are so important to us, with storytelling.
Right.
And so in the midst of all that, near my last year of college, all I was doing was writing, and I was smoking cigarettes left and right. So, I mean,
You, Jane?
yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Oh my God. Yeah,
Hard
yeah,
to
yeah.
imagine.
Yeah, no, I mean, I even have one of those extenders. So the smoke wouldn't get in my eyes. So I could sit there and I'd just type and type and type. And I probably drank more than what I should. There was definitely a couple of times where I got a 12 pack of Corona Lights. And before I knew it, I was like, I think it's only been 2 hours and I'm done. Just get into it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so in the midst of that, my second to last year, there was a stress management yoga class. And I took that, and I was even on the Chantix, to help me stop smoking, and it was giving me horrible nightmares, and it was just making me crazy. So I took that class, and it was very breath centered, restorative yin style class.
So for people who don't know yin style, explain that to us.
Yeah, great question. A yin style yoga class is basically you're in any number of most yin style classes, you're not even going to get up off the floor. You're going to be on the floor in a pose, focusing on your breath in that pose for maybe 5 to 8 minutes. You're just in it. So you can't let your mind go forward, and you can't, you don't want to be in the back. It encourages you to get in your body, to go inside. And the first semester of that class, so in answering that, like holding these poses, because I've always been limber. I was brought up in a little bit. When I was younger, I did some gymnastic stuff, just after school programs and stuff like that. So I've always been limber. And so I would get to these, I could touch my toes and do all the things. I'd be like, this is stupid. This is really, really stupid. And, but I was like, I'm going to give it a go. And staying in those poses for a very long time, it made me focus on my breath, and it made me slow down. And like I said, I was able to quit smoking, and probably within 3 or 4 weeks. And I was just more, it brought me inside, and it started really, show me things that, I think my body was ready to show me, because I was about 20. My timeline is really odd, but, I was in my late 20s, and so through psychology and through college, I was like, okay, I want to do more yoga. What's more of this intense yoga? And you remember Jillian Michaels?
Yes.
Yeah, she's on The Biggest Loser.
Yeah.
She had this yoga DVD, and the person I was, my partner at the time, she had gotten that for a workout, and I was like, well, okay, this is stupid. I'm going to do this. And so I did it, and I was like, oh, this is hard. This is different. And I was running. I've always lifted weights. I've always been a physical person. Always been out. I hunted. All that kind of stuff. I was like, this is a totally different thing. And then that was what really made me fall in love with yoga, and started to go like, I want to go to some classes and see what this is about. And so it's been a long kind of road of like picking it up and putting it down, picking it up and putting it down.
Not always being a willing participant, it sounds like. Like sometimes it sounds like you were drug along.
Yeah, well, yeah, by some of the people that were around me, and then also just like, I don't know, there's just sometimes, I don't know if you experience this, Christy, but I mean, there's sometimes it's like you feel like you should do it, but you don't want to do it.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
And that's what yoga relationship has been with me. And essentially, I mean, that's why I became a yoga instructor, is because like, if I don't become one, then I'm not going to have a good practice. I need other people expecting me to show up because I won't do it for myself.
Well, it's the whole accountability thing, right?
Mm-hmm. Right. And I need that. I really, really need that. So like when I show up to classes now and people are there, they're helping me.
So let's talk about that for a minute, because you emphasize community involvement. how does Access Yoga serve as a hub between the walls and what you're doing in the yoga studio and the rest of the community?
Great question.
And why is that important to you?
Well, it kind of circles back to being younger, and my youth and going to church. We're communal people. We're
Mm-hmm.
human beings. We have to be with one another. We need time apart from one another, of course, but we need each other whether we like it or not.
Right.
And I experienced a lot of that when I was in college because if I could, I would just stay home and take online classes. I didn't want to be around people because I didn't know the importance of boundaries, and I just felt very put upon. And if you mind me referencing a earlier part of our conversation of and kindness, when you're kind and how there are people that can take advantage of that, feel it pretty intensely and feel pretty slighted.
Yeah.
And so I did a lot of pushing away in those late 20s and the 30s. But so now coming back around, hitting my late 30s and now in my 40s is the importance of each other. And we have to be shoulder to shoulder. And especially within this past hurricane that hit here in the mountains in September, we did a free sound bath, and people brought in all this different food and extra water and whatever. And I didn't even ask. I sat at a table. And so we filled up this whole classroom with about maybe 28 people. And some of them were sharing mats because they were partners. And we just set this intention of just hey, we're going to be here. And then people were in that hallway at the Folk Moot Center sharing things. And, oh, you need this? Well, I've got this in my car and I'll bring this. And that was the first time that I was like, man, this is what I miss about going to church. And so that's one of the ways that we've been showing up at Access Yoga. I mean, between all the different non-for-profit stuff, and I do a lot of work with Misfit Mountain, and these are people who are taking animals and they're just dropping them off at these people's gates.
Wow.
And they make sure that if they need surgery, they get the surgery. If they need a home, they find them homes. I mean, they're amazing, and they're showing up. And we did stuff with Sarges, who's another animal benefit here. We did stuff with pathways and empty bowls, and because we've got to show up for each other.
Right.
I mean, and so that's what Access Yoga is doing, and our prices really show that too. I'm really proud of our prices because I want it to be accessible to everyone. I don't want there to be a price point that puts a proverbial paywall between someone and their mental, emotional, spiritual health.
I have to say thank you for that, because yoga has sort of found popularity again. There's been this resurgence. And I've noticed over the past few years, the cost to go to one class, it absolutely makes it unattainable for a large number of people. Because if I could feed my family for what it costs me to go to one class, right, it's not going to be yoga that I choose if I'm struggling to choose between things. So I think that is a really big part of being community, is having an affordable price for people to be able, to be able to participate. I want to ask you about the most courageous or counterintuitive decision that you've made for Access Yoga. One that maybe people thought was a mistake, but turned out to be a game changer.
I'm a pretty cautious man. I don't overextend myself in any way. I think that's another reason why I've never really done sports, because I don't want to throw myself into the wind and hurt myself. So I'm pretty cautious, and I think it's just starting. Has been the main thing. Is just that powerful what if I were to do what I really want to do, and that's just basically what it was. Is just because I've been working at another beautiful place here in town for about 5.5 years, and I learned a lot, and I'm so grateful for that time. But I've always had that kind of punk rocker in me, and I always kind of feel kind of silly, kind of like labeling myself that. But whenever things just don't start fitting it, I realize it, and that the punk comes out in me, and I'm just like, fuck this. I want to do my own thing and want to figure out what that looks like, and I don't really care what other people think on it, because that's a swamp of sadness that I don't want to live in.
Well, so let's talk about that for a minute, because this podcast is all about people who took a chance on themselves and put their passion to work. You know, there's got to be a vulnerable feeling deciding to go off on your own. And how do you make that choice, that leap to get started?
The choice to get started is just that feeling of getting stale. Like, it's like, man, I got to make a move. Um, and I don't know. It's just like that. I can only compare it to the thing of like, you're outside somewhere and maybe you're reading and you're like, I think I should get up and move. So you get up and you move and the bird craps where you're sitting, that type of thing. It's just that
Yeah.
gut feeling. It's like, I just have to move.
Yeah. So did you have any naysayers or people telling you like, man, Jake, you got a good gig going on?
No, I didn't have that. And if I did, I probably wasn't listening. I wasn't listening, but I definitely got a lot of people who go, you know what you should do? You should do this and you should do that and you should do this. And that's so much static. And, and you have to be careful of that, because like when people start, even with their best intentions, all of a sudden that thing that gave you the initial spark, that feeling in the heart to move, it's no longer yours anymore. What you make eventually becomes everybody else's, because I mean, that's why you do it, is so that you can give it to others.
Right.
At least for me, that's speaking my thing. I mean, even down to like, I remember one of the first times, like I slaved over my logo for like 3.5 months, if not 4 months, going back and forth with my friend, trying to make this logo. And after about a year and a half, just a half a year of being open, I had one of my wonderful instructors take my logo and do something else with it. And I initially had this thing, wait, but I was like, no, it's not mine anymore.
Interesting.
You know?
Interesting. And I love that point. I love what you just said. And there's always a point when I'm talking to someone that somebody says something that's like, yes, that's brilliant. And I love what you just said. I think that's very generous too, that you said, you get all this feedback from other people. Everybody's got an opinion. And that can be good, but it is also at times very distracting. But once you create something, for a lot of us, and me included, it's meant for other people. So if it looks a little bit different, maybe that's part of the evolution of it as well. That's really interesting. I appreciate that perspective.
Yeah, and thank you for highlighting that, because it's like, as I've been opening up, it's just like, and more of these wonderful people who are coming into my life, like you and some of the local people here that have kind of been at helping the community longer than what I've been and showing up. I'm kind of coming late to the party, and they've already been on different boards and helping things, and going, hey, do you want to create jobs? Do you want to create opportunities? I've got some other things that are kind of percolating in my kitchen to like do video stuff, and trying to get together with the local community college, because no one's really doing video editing and showing people how to do that, and being able to produce live shows and all that type of stuff. And how do we share that with our community?
Yeah, I love the evolution.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes me speechless. It's quite amazing.
So let me ask you, do you have a mantra that keeps you grounded?
Yeah, little by little.
Ah.
I want to do it all. And then when I think of it all, it can become Sisyphus's boulder and roll me over. So I have to see it as pebbles. I have to see it as little things. I got to break it down to little parts. I got to be like the squirrel girl. Be like the squirrel. Break it all down every time.
Squirrel. When I'm in my squirrel mode, I'm distracted. I'm all over the place.
There is that, and there is that absolutely. But it's little by little. little by
So how
little.
deep that little by little when things start to like just flow, and I mean they're coming fast, and maybe you didn't intend for that to happen. How do you use that little by little when things just seem to be rushing at you?
Great question. That's when it turns into now I'm jamming,
Okay.
because like the way I've kind of structured my uh, access is I don't call it a business, I call it my band. And everyone has their instrument to play, and everyone
Um,
gets to have their own solo, and they all have their own talents. And how do we, because a good band isn't just because like Van Halen, Eddie Van Halen, the guitarist, weedy, 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 right? That guy can shred, right? I mean, he was probably, I mean, a lot of people say, yeah, hands down, biggest guitar gods
yeah,
ever.
yeah,
But
yeah.
he's still nothing without his brother Alex, his bassist, and the different singers that they've gone through. It's the band, and
Who's your band?
that I love to listen to.
You said it's like a band.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, sorry. So I mean, it's Kristen Batchelor, it's Mary Ford, it's Christina Browning, it's Hannah Arrington, it is Jennifer Wood, it's B. Doyle, Melissa Helmer, Melissa Rodriguez, oh my gosh, oh yeah, Susie Berryhill, and Michelle Bertolini. I mean, that's 10 people. Oh, and we just hired on Susan Reinhardt.
Are these people that are instructors for
Yes,
access? Oh, wow, that's a lot
yes,
of people. And I
yes.
love that you name names. Like you are talking about the people who make up what you founded, but they are the makeup.
I wouldn't be where I am without them. 100%. A
I
hundred
love that.
percent. I would not be. We just recently got voted the best yoga studio in Haywood, second time in a row.
Wow,
Um,
congratulations.
and I mean, I'm pretty groovy, but they are amazing. The people that are in my band that has access to this business, they're all better than me. They're all excellent in their fields, and each class I take with them, I always learn something. They teach me something every time I see them. And I mean, I can't remember who said it, but they said that the quote goes, if you walk into a room and you're the smartest person in the room, you need to leave, because you need to be around people that are smarter than you, have a bigger toolbox than you. You need to learn,
Well, and different experiences, right? What makes things so good is when you have different experiences contributing to what you're creating.
right.
Otherwise, if it's you just doing your thing, it's the same thing all the time. And
Mm-hmm.
it's not as exciting as when the band gets together.
At 100%. And I left two other people out. There's Tara
Okay.
Scarborough and Amber Clyde. Oh, and Leanne Rentz. There you go. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Wow, I
Yeah.
love that. You've got your band, but who has been most influential in your life, and do they know it?
Most influential in my life. Yeah, I would say between, I'd say it would be Anne Marie, my fiance. Because she's someone who's really shown me the importance of friendship, and that grace. Um, and she's really good at like playing. Like I tend to get in my head quite a bit, and she'll she can float a joke really quick, and it gets me out of that. And I'm always like, I don't want to recreate the wheel. I want to find what's not working and make it work creatively. I aspire to just see that thing that other people aren't seeing. I want to be that inquisitive about it. I want to be in that place where my feet are almost touching in the water.
Mhm.
Not where I'm so deep, but that's my sweet spot. How can I stay where my feet are almost touching? And so it's really good to have someone like Anne Marie um, to help me stay in a stasis, because she's definitely someone who's like, when was the last time that like you like played guitar, or maybe it's nap time.
It brings out the playfulness in you.
Right. But I mean, I don't know if I answered the question to the above average aspect of things. It's just, I know that I've tried, and we were talking about this last time in the studio. I've quit so many things, and that's where there's a lot of people that I love and I respect that I've stayed in a place where, in my humble opinion, it's the hell that they know.
Well, and that's another thing about this podcast. It's all about that. How do you get unstuck? Because there are so many people who are staying where they're at in misery, but they don't know how to get unstuck. So I do remember that conversation we had where you said, I've quit a lot of things. And that's not a negative thing. I mean, it could be. But when you're quitting things because you haven't found yet where you feel like you belong, then it's part of your evolution. So I think that's a challenge for people. And I've heard people have reached out to me and said, how do I get unstuck? So a big part of this podcast is talking with people who have had the courage to try something different, be humble and maybe not to be at the best at something, but give it a try so that you can find your space. So I don't know, you think you found your space?
Yes. And there's a lot of, room for me to grow. Because I can't, there's just a lot of room for me to grow with yoga and this beautiful town. It's, and these wonderful people. To get unstuck, is to be brave enough. I think for me, it's like actually really boiling it down. Now, what the hell do I really want? What do I want? And then why don't I go after it? Well, what if what I get what I want, it doesn't make me happy? So I might as well just stay here. But I don't know. I spent a couple of years, probably half a decade, just staying, being safe and in my room and not taking any chances and mocking people who took chances and mocking them when they failed. I'm guilty of it. But I don't know. You got to get defiant. You got to get punk about it.
I love that. Get punk about it.
Yeah.
And no judgment for people who decide to stay, because I understand that sometimes it's not as easy as just trying something new, that there are responsibilities and things that may stand in your way. But a lot of times there is a path forward. There is a way to do it. And it doesn't have to be you quit one thing completely to try something brand new. A lot of times you can try things while you're still doing what you need to do to be secure. So I won't go further down that path, but I'm glad that you talked about that, because that is one of the big challenges for people in trying something that they want to try or in taking the chance. So I love how you talk about, you just say, I quit a lot of things.
And I appreciate you saying that. Definitely not. And I don't want to go down that pathway too far either, that some people are just not ready to move.
Right.
Or
That's
life
right.
conditions. I've been very blessed to have options come up, but you also have to work for them. And that's why it's really important to figure out what you want, because, and be willing to change, have that floating target.
Because like you said, you may go after what you want and decide it's not what you want at all, but that's okay. That's part of the evolution of becoming.
Right. Absolutely. And sometimes just getting started on the pathway to what you think you want, you find what you actually want.
Exactly right.
And
so
that's
I
been
want to
awesome.
ask, when you were 10 years old, what did you want to be?
Indiana Jones.
Oh, okay.
I wanted to be an adventurer. I wanted to go places and discover things.
Well, you kind of have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. In my own way.
You may not be Indiana Jones, but you're a heck of a Jake Gilmore.
Thank you so much. I would agree with that. That's what I aspire to be, is the best version of me. Absolutely.
So I got to ask you, with all the hats that you wear, how do you find space and time for your own self-care and reflection?
Man, got a lot of good questions. Good job. You're doing a good job. I want to tell you, you're a
Thank
good
you. I appreciate
job. How do I find, you got to make time.
Yeah.
You have to prioritize it, just like eating. Uh, there's a lot of great people that I'm surrounded by, and they have ideas that are parallel with mine. And we've got so many things on the calendar to do, but also in the midst of like getting all these things done. Like when we go to our calendars, we go, when are you resting? What are you doing for yourself this weekend? Cause we got a lot of output, and the people that I'm surrounded by are, guardium ad litums. There are people who are all about the servanthood, and so the way that I make time is I prioritize it. I have to.
What does that look like for you? Do you put it on a calendar? Do you,
Yes.
what, is it a habit?
Yes. I literally, and this is one of the things that Anne-Marie helps me out with, is I'll go to the calendar and there'll be a weekend where it's just don't plan anything is there. And then sometimes when it pops
The
up,
plan is don't plan anything.
Exactly.
I love
Exactly.
it.
And
That's
I agree. And I try to at least have one day in that weekend, if it's a Friday or Saturday or Sunday, where I don't leave my house. That's just, I try to put at least one day in there where I just do not leave my house. I stay on my property up here on the little mountain that I'm on in my little blue house. And I garden or play guitar or try to write some music, or I watch a show or a movie that I've watched 1,000 times, just curl up on the couch and just be as chill as I possibly can.
So here's something else I want to know. What is your go-to song or playlist before you teach a class?
I like that question. That's cool. So if I'm feeling like, here's some vulnerability, like if during a holiday month, like we've got spring break, so class participation goes down a little bit. Mm-hmm. And so this is one of those things that they don't really tell you in yoga teacher training. The number of people who show up to your class does not equal your worth.
I love that. Yep.
And so sometimes it can get a little bit, if I'm not slept well, and I can be like, man, is it me? What did I do something? Because it's that.
Sure.
I can over empathize,
Well,
and
it's very personal to you.
Right. And it's my baby. It's my band. It's, and so the one song when I'm feeling that insecure is a song called If I Had a Tail by Queens of the Stone Age. And it's just this swanky kind of dark, it's just this attitude song of like, just, when you own the world, you're always home.
Oh, okay.
And I just love that kind of confidence, and there's some humility in the song, and so that's one of the songs I definitely listened to prior. And then let's see here. So when I'm feeling insecure, I'll listen to If I Had a Tail. But when I'm really, really feeling good, probably the Ramones, Blitzkrieg Bop.
Let's Creek Bop?
No, Blitzkrieg as Bop. Yeah.
Blitzkrieg Bop.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah. And when you hear it, you'll go, oh, I've heard that song in 1,000 movies. But it is just punk, just straightforward. Hey ho, let's go. Positive. It's great.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So I got to ask too now, what's a little known fact that would surprise your students to know about you?
That when I was going to college to be a writer, I was writing horror stories.
Really, Jay?
Yeah.
Really? You've got a dark side.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Remind me never to make you mad.
Nah, I just write about it. I wouldn't do anything. But no, I think that's when I've shared that with other people. They're like, what'd you go to college for? Right. I was like, well, I really wanted to become a horror writer. And I just, I didn't have the dedication to it. Like now that I see the dedication of yoga and dedication to wanting to write music and be creative, I was definitely
this light, bright side. That seems too dark for you. Did you ever do anything with your writing?
I got a couple of little small publishes here and there,
Okay.
I doubt I've when I've when I've wanted to search myself or Google myself, it's I can't find it anymore because there's some small little publications that these rags that popped up there for a little bit right before the internet publishing was really hitting. It was right there where paper was really starting to go away.
Yeah.
And so some of those little like homegrown places, I had a couple of short stories, which I'd love to write. They were, how can you tell a good spooky story and all the while talk about what's relevant and what's going on? Because I mean, essentially, zombies, Walking Dead is that idea of like eerie capitalism is basically what it boils down to.
Okay.
Who knew? Well, I mean that's the studying that I did. All the archetypes of like way we have the vampire and the monster in Frankenstein. I mean, Mary Shelley, the way she wrote that of like man trying to create something in his own image and look what happens. But that filtered in really well into my yoga teaching and just how in storytelling and and relating to people. So it's all been kind of cohesive, oddly. And if I were to say I planned it that way, I'd be lying.
No, you put your way to it.
Right. Yeah.
And good for you.
Thank you.
So last question. Well, maybe not last, but what's next for Access Yoga and for you?
Well, with Access Yoga, what's next is I think we're working on doing more online classes, and we've been building up our library for people to have different classes sitting there and offering that as a different package. With just being consistent. It feels like the world that we're living in right now, I think it's always been this way, but it feels a little bit more urgent that we need to be, Access Yoga really needs to be that safe harbor for anyone and everyone, 100%, a place where, since we've grown in the bigger space, we've got Yogi's Den there, where we've got our couch and our tea and our coffee, and we're encouraging people, you got a home if you need a home.
It's like a safe place.
Exactly. 100%. We're part of we're in some good phone books for people who are of the LGBTQ and plus community, because that's near and dear to my heart. Everyone belongs. I mean, and that's the reason why, we were talking about where it got the name for Access. It's a reference to Jimi Hendrix, Access is bold as love. Love is important. So being consistent and loving each other and having a safe space for people. That's my plan. And whatever that looks like, to stay consistent and stay open, and being as inclusive as we can possibly be. That's my plan. I think that feels right, because that's what's got me here so far.
I love it. Let's talk for just a minute about, you and I have something coming up that I'm excited about. Let's talk a little bit about the Smoky Mountain Yoga and Wellness Festival.
Let's do it.
So it's June 21st, and we keep talking about where Access is, Western North Carolina, in Waynesville, North Carolina. We also mentioned Haywood County.
Right.
So it's going to be in Waynesville, and it also happens to be the same day as the longest day of the year, summer solstice. Yes. So you want to talk a little bit about what it's going to be, what that day is going to be like?
Yeah, I would love to. Number one, Robin King has put that together. She's and that's someone who I left out of my list. She's put this together, and it's been something, a dream of hers for some time. I mean, her and I talked about this idea probably about a year and 3 months ago. And she was planning it before that. And so she came into the team and she told me about it again. I was like, we're just not ready yet. Let's take our time. And so now we're in it, and it's happening, like I said, and like you said, on the June 21st. And it's just going to be because Asheville, they have their big Yoga International Day, and we're trying to kind of have our own thing. Asheville's great, but we got our thing,
Right.
And so, it's going to be all the local instructors are going to have some form of a class throughout that day. I mean, it starts at 10 and ends, I think it like probably ends at 10. And so it's all
That's way
inside.
past bedtime.
What's that?
That's way past my bedtime.
Well, I think the thing that
I'll have to get further sleep.
yeah, you will. You will. I think when you and I have our interview, I think that's going to take place possibly around 7, if I remember correctly. So hopefully that'll get you closer to.
I'm so excited about it. I won't have any problem staying up. I am super excited about it. And just anybody who wants to learn more, there's a website.
Yes, it's at the, I believe it's Smoky Mountain Yoga Festival.com, I think is what it is. And as soon as you start typing it in, it'll pop up.
Yes.
So yeah.
Okay. Sounds great. And also I wanted to thank you because it's very obvious that I'm a little not myself. So you are the person I knew I could do this interview today and show up looking a little bit like Frankenstein who was in a fight. And I just appreciate your kindness and your generosity so much, Jake.
Well, you're deserving of it. You're absolutely deserving of it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It is an absolute pleasure. I can't wait to work more with you.
I'm excited. I'm so stoked about it, and I'm just so glad that I can call you my friend.